I'm with Niamh Kennedy, who was in the meeting with the Minister today in her role as Cathaoirleach of the Council. Could you tell us what happened today, Niamh, from your perspective? What were the most important points that were covered?
Well, I think the most important point was that the Minister came here today on invitation and was welcomed here today. And I think that everybody, all of us, sang from the one hymn sheet, and we are all of the opinion that we all want everybody to have the 100% redress. That is so important for our county and other counties that's going to go through this eventually. We see now that we've become pretty expert in an awful lot of this, and all of the councillors that have faced meetings with the members of the public time and time again that know inside and out what's going on. The staff within Donegal County Council themselves know exactly what's going on. They themselves working in this also have defective blocks in their own homes. There's an awful lot of emotional people there. There's an awful lot of people that's going through a serious crisis between people who have people who need extra help, people with disabilities, younger children, the mental health issues that's coming out of this.
Your constituents, what issues are they raising, the people who have defective concrete blocks? What issues are they raising with you? And are you happy with the rate that things are being done?
Things have been very slow, there is no doubt about it, and I think that's one of the problems that we're having. It's trying to get the red tape to get through all of the work that's involved with it, and you have to have so much information gathered first. There's so many restrictions on it as well. Obviously second homes aren't covered, community centres aren't covered, creches, all of the other buildings that do have defective blocks, they're not covered at this point in time, and so it's a learning curve for an awful lot of people.
Where does this red tape come from?
Well, I think it's departmental, and I think it's not known. This is new. The Dublin crisis had obviously the pyrite, and that was a different, and it was 100% for that, no problem, obviously on a much smaller scale. I think a lot of the problems that we're seeing is coming from the quarries, is coming from, regulation. Self-regulation doesn't work. We know that.
What's your view on the current market surveillance office situation?
Well, the view is that it's not enough. It's not been done. Anything that has been done, people need, there needs to be checks and balances, but there needs to be checks an awful lot of the time, unannounced checks, to ensure that this doesn't happen and doesn't keep happening, because we're going to be still dealing with this crisis in 20 years' time, and that's the issue that we're having, and it's a really scary place to be.
Recently, the 100% Redress Party councillors walked out of a council meeting. They seemed to be frustrated that the council basically wasn't doing enough.
Yeah.
What's your response to that?
I think there was, obviously we're all frustrated, and it's not that the council's not doing enough. There's a restriction that they have there. We have now started doing meetings every month in relation to housing in the county. That wouldn't have happened previously, but now the executive and the workers in the council that are dealing with the housing come before all of the councillors and discuss them and give them an update on all of the things that's happening, including homelessness, including refits for housing, new builds, land acquisitions, purchases like that. All of that is discussed through and through. When the Redress Party walked out that last day, they were making a stand, and that's what they felt that they should do, and that's perfectly fine. The meeting still has to move on, it still has to progress, which is a pity maybe that they left before a lot of the issues had come up that maybe would have addressed some things for them. So look, they were quite within their rights to do that. That happens a lot. So,
is there a lack of rental accommodation in your constituency for homeowners who might, not have a mobile home or not have the space for a mobile home and that have to rent from somewhere? Are there enough places for homeowners to rent?
No, absolutely not near enough. I think Joy, Councillor Baird said today there's something like 23 houses on daft.ie today for rent or whatever it is. That's not, we just can't do it. And I mean, the cost of rent too has become so high here, and partially to do with the Ukrainian war. Obviously, prices of rent may have been, say, €500 in a month back 4 years ago. Today you'll be looking at €1,200 a month. So people can't afford these things, and also then you don't get a lot of people that want to rent out houses on the HAP scheme. So that's another issue.
Did you attend the vote when the en bloc vote of the non-material items in the county development plan?
Say it again.
The county development plan, people make submissions, right? The chief executive decides whether the submissions are material or non-material. Material being important, non-material being not so important. So the non-material items are grouped together and then voted for en bloc. So it's like, hey, everybody, are we going to agree for this? And there's no individual discussion on those things. So one of those issues was temporary modular housing.
Okay.
So the chief executive said that there wasn't a need for it. And if it turned out that a need did become necessary, that the council would deal with that as an emergency situation. Do you think the chief executive ought to change his view on temporary modular housing?
Yeah, we're going to need to do that. We absolutely know that now because, as you said, we don't have any accommodation and we need to move very swiftly along. I suppose initially, maybe back a number of years ago, 5, 6, 7 years ago, the thought of modular housing within the planning department was definitely a no-no. Oh God, nobody wants that. You know, it just ends up very communal. It ends up something that just doesn't look good aesthetically, it doesn't help people, it's not long-term homes, so this is what we wanted to do.
The redress focus groups, I presume you're familiar with them, they had two suggestions in the county, two suggestions in the county development plan. One was, say, have an estate of 5 houses with a green in the middle. You could put a modular house there, and all the services like water, electricity, and everything are already there. The other idea was in where you have areas of one-off housing, there might be council land that's earmarked for development and social housing. So in that case, to install, say, 20 kilometres of services, you could do that, build modular houses quickly, use those modular houses for people in the surrounding area, and then you could remove those houses, and because social houses are going to go up there, the services will be there. I mean, in hindsight, that seems maybe like a good idea.
Well, I think one of the biggest problems that we seem to have is with Uisce Éireann, the fact of, and that seems to be the biggest stumbling block we have within the county. It's because of the lack of infrastructure is there that we cannot get the connectivity to the wastewater and to water services. So that's a huge problem.
And what could you do to kind of push forward the idea of temporary modular housing?
Well, I think we're all working on that now. We're all talking about it, and everybody is coming off the same opinion that this is something that we have to look at and have to do. I know I've been speaking to a company that's actually making these modular homes at the moment, and they've been speaking to the council themselves and to planning. So there are plans afoot and work being done in the background, but it's trying to ensure that where they're placed, that the infrastructure is there for them, and that are they going to last a good length of time. You know, there's no point in maybe spending 150, 200,000 on something that might only last 20 years when we have to spend, you know, on a good strong home that will last for hopefully a lifetime. We never want to have to go through something like this again. I mean, I know people who are getting on in life, and the last thing that they ever wanted to see was to have to rebuild their home after maybe living in it for 25, 30 years, and then they're in their 70s. You know, it's not
I've actually met a couple who told me that their parents had basically given up now, and they were just planning to they're just hoping that they'll die before the house does. It's really heartbreaking. One last question for you is, in your view, what does the housing department have to do if that housing department is the main bottleneck?
Well, they have to listen. And they have to listen to the councillors that know it, and the defective blocks groups that are here that know exactly what is needed and required. And today has been a good start with the Minister here, and we're also meeting with the department again during the week. They're coming down to meet us as well. So we meet them only maybe 3 times a year, but this time they're coming to Donegal, and it's good after the follow-up of the Minister being here today. So
sorry, you mean Department of Housing officials are coming to the council?
Yes.
Right.
They're coming here this week as well. So it's good to know that, and it's good to have that meeting. We would have went to see them in Dublin in December, so that they're coming out to see us now in June, or May.
I have been coming up to Donegal since October 2021, And I thought I had an idea of how big the crisis was. But a homeowner showed me around Letterkenny, and we went from estate to estate to estate to estate. I mean, what do you think are the main, say, 2 or 3 steps that need to be done to get the program really working and get houses fixed?
Well, obviously more money and to speed up the process. I mean, we've looked now for more staff within the council to help facilitate with the work to go through to get money back into the county to ensure that these houses are paid for and the schemes are paid for. There's issues with insurance, there's issues with banks, there's fire safety, there's all sorts of things going on that, every time you go into another meeting you hear another story or another scenario that you wouldn't have heard of before. Even down to the fact that, say, the local authority were to buy a house that was put up for sale, and they have to check every single house now for the defective blocks. So that takes time. But in the first instance, it's the seller of the house that has to pay to get the testing done. So if the council comes out and they look at the house and they find something that they're not happy with, even though the tester says it's okay, they still have to get it done. So if there's a crack at all, it goes back to that person who's selling the house to go and get further testing done, which is obviously a huge expense on the person who's trying to sell the house, and they may have to sell the house for one reason or another, sickness, downsizing, whatever it might be, and then the sale falls through because that person says, I can't be doing with this, I can't deal with it, I'll just sell it to somebody privately, and that's what's happening. So every time you think you're getting somewhere and it falls away again. It's really, really tough. It's really tough at the minute. So what we want to do is work together. Everybody work together. It's so important. And sit down around the table. And that today, to me, was a first step of a very good relationship going forward.
Thank you very much, Niamh.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.